Hey everyone, it's Raimi from the Dad Batch and behind the scenes button pusher for Off the Rack Rebellion. First off, a heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you for being a loyal watcher or listener of the show. Knowing that you enjoy the content we're producing is what helps motivate us to keep putting new episodes out each week. So again, thank you. I wanted to pop in and give our friends at Heroes and Villains a quick shout out. And no, they don't pay us to advertise for them. They're just genuinely nice guys, and we believe in what they're doing over there. And we wanted to see them continue to bring awesome pop culture gear to fans just like us. Here on Off the Rack Rebellion, Ceit and Billi talk every week about finding real world clothing that would fit into the Star Wars galaxy. And that's the same design philosophy that Heroes and Villains uses when they approach every new line. They don't just slap a giant logo on a t shirt and call it done. They ask their designers to put themselves in the minds of the characters being represented and ask, what would they be wearing in the universe they're in? What would Wolverine's hoodie look like? What kind of jogging gear would the Bad Batch wear? What kind of bomber jacket would an off duty TIE pilot have? And their designs aren't over the top either. They're detailed enough to satisfy the fan in all of us, and subtle enough to fit perfectly into that if you know zone too. Because we believe that our audience and the Heroes and Villains lines are such a perfect match, we talked the Heroes and Villains folks into giving us a discount code. So head on over to heroesandvillains.com and load up your shopping cart with stuff for your family, friends, and of course yourself. And use the code DADBATCH at checkout to get 20% off. Again, that's DADBATCH, all caps and all one word at checkout to get 20% off your order. It's a one use per customer code, so make sure you make that order count. Thanks again for listening to me ramble. Now let's enjoy this week's episode of Off the Rack Rebellion.
This resistance.
Welcome back to Off the Rack Rebellion, the podcast where we talk about costuming and how to take everyday finds and incorporate them into your everyday cosplay. Hello, Billy. Welcome back.
Hey, Kate, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. We're rolling on this same kind of related episodes, right?
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
our
Bunch of
three-parter,
them
I
linked
guess.
together, which it really makes sense. I really like how one will flow into the other because it's
Yeah,
all a big conversation with little chapters in there.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So we're talking about hard goods. I'm calling them hard goods, but hard goods and props, and both inspired by our beloved universe, but also like canon props or something,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
I guess that's
totally.
where we are. That's a mouthful for a title, but
It's
props and things.
props and things. I think it's, because we were talking about Greeblies after we talked about like the belts and pouches, going into the Greeblies.
Mhm.
Okay, now it's almost like sizing up from there, right? It's almost
Yeah,
like prop is a big thing. And I feel like a prop is one of those items that you're not always going to have it on you, but a
hmm
really good prop really takes you into the universe
yeah,
almost more than anything else, I would dare
yeah.
say.
I think a prop could also like define a character.
Mm. Yes.
Like I think
Yeah.
they're very they're one and the same. You can look at a prop and it can conjure like a character. Like
Yeah,
Han Solo, you
totally.
think of his DL-44, you think of his blaster,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Or like your denizen, you're like, is it a grocer? Is the fruit stand guy?
Oh,
Like,
the merchant.
merchant. There we go. Like I always,
Yeah,
carrying around
his hat,
like
right? No,
his hat or like any
yeah,
of those things. It's like it wouldn't look right on Han Solo, right? Because like he's got a
right,
different job, a different story to tell. And so like
right,
these little items are such indicators as to like who you are, what you're doing.
right.
Um, yeah,
And
yeah,
taking it to Batu, like a lot of our friends
yeah,
in the Droidsmith Union, like they're
yes,
like DEPs, they're Droid Escape Pods. Like that
hmm,
is a prop that defines like that sort of character. Also,
absolutely,
tools for those droidsmiths or
yeah,
mechanics in general, like to really kind of define like you know. Uh,
mhm,
uh, Again, going back to Han Solo, Princess Leia is
yeah,
not gonna. She's not gonna carry around a plasma torch unless she
yeah,
needs one. She
yeah,
can.
Yeah.
Why
She's
why don't
no one would
why aren't
stop
people
her.
letting him?
Where is
Why
Leia's
aren't-
school belt?
She can, and I'm sure she's wielded one for both utility and to threaten someone. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure.
wouldn't put it past her. But
Han Solo's got a plasma torch in the face.
you
Like, hey,
better come
listen.
home. You better come home. Better go to therapy. I got an appointment. um, so yeah, did you listen to the
But
last episode?
Chewbacca, you would see it as yeah.
We did a whole 5 minutes on therapy. Sorry.
Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, like on Chewbacca or Han Solo, it would be very much, or like on a pit droid or somebody who works in like
Yeah.
the pits of the speeder races. Like, yeah, like it would make sense as the prop, right?
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. And I think that can definitely help build layers to your character when you are building a character, which I've had difficulty with different characters being like, well, what's their real direction? What's their purpose? What's their motive? Like the props can definitely be
Mhm.
something that helps tell that story once I figure it out. Right.
Yeah. It could also add to your story. Like there's props that I have for my character that almost aren't um in the lineage of their story. It's no longer used, but it's almost a sentimental like token that they carry with them. I've talked about it a bunch of times on the pod, but like that paint sprayer that I recently did is something from my OC's past that he kind of carries around. He might use it. There might be some applications for it. We talked about it in that other episode. He might be taking out a camera with it by just spraying it with paint or something. Might be marking, something for a couple of, the squadron members. Like, hey, this is the wall to take out.
A couple operatives coming behind him. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like a hash run where you leave like the flour like for the trail.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. It could be something like that, but really is kind of like a sentimental thing that he holds with him. And props can be that as well, like for any characters.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I feel like my original prop, I'm just gonna go ahead and you can mark your bingo calendar. My original prop was your little decoder.
Oh.
So I'm mentioning Billy.
Okay. I finally made it onto the podcast. Wait.
But it was like it was even like a piece of jewelry as an accessory, but it was also sort of a prop because it was that like, having a story behind that. And I feel like I included that always at the very beginning because I was like, this is my prop. So yeah, like finding those things that feel authentic to your character can be important. So what are your favorite props so far? Like, what do you?
Well, I mean, I love a blaster. I mean, I really don't feel like I'm fully in cosplay if I don't have a blaster, but my character does carry one. Not every character does, but I feel like I wouldn't carry one with my merchant. It wouldn't make sense to me, but when which I'm mostly in, is some sort of version of Maddox. And when I'm doing that without a blaster in my head, I'm like, okay, this has to be some kind of downtime or something like that, because like he would always have it on him. Like he just always would add that tool on him.
You can't imagine Han Solo really without his blaster, right? Like,
no, you can't.
So like there are those characters or like the Mandos, you don't imagine them without being armed to the teeth, really. So it makes sense. Yeah.
I do love that, but I also I do love any form of I don't know, like binoculars or mononox or something, some kind of nox, some kind of like something to see. That's also a really cool really cool like prop that can be used by many different characters. Everyone's got to see something far, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in our line of work, right? It makes sense if you are doing some sort of like spy, some sort of bounty hunter, some sort of, even it could be like you're just traveling for some reason, right?
Yeah.
Like,
A
yeah.
traveler. I can even think of like a farmer sort of character
Mhm.
needing to sort of get a better look at the
Mm.
weather coming
Oh yeah.
in.
Oh yeah. Farmers
Um,
love their binoculars, people.
yeah.
Love them.
There's a show, and I don't know where it comes from. I think it might be an animated show that there's like an association for like creatures or something like that. I forget the actual like name of the organization or something, but they would most assuredly have something like that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I could see that being. I actually have a couple. I have one that's, I don't know, like just a kid's set of binoculars that I spray painted and stuck
Hmm.
agreeably on top of it
There you
because
go.
I was like, this kind of looks like it's like fans and stuff. And if this is like digital, it needs to be cooling down, right? So I like stuck this on top of
Exactly.
it with like some two-sided. I've got this, it's not even tape. It's like there's a really thick, like sticky gel that's almost like mist
Okay.
strip. I love these
Yeah.
things. This like it comes in a roll. It's fantastic. So
Yeah.
I just stuck it on with it. And I should do more with it because it's just like flat black right now. But I'm like, it's
Yeah.
an easy prop to like just pull out of a bag. Or I found like it's like a scope from a Nerf gun, which I should repaint, but
Hmm.
it's not terrible as is.
Yeah.
And it is again just like it's just like a looking glass just for
Yeah.
photos to be like, oh yeah, like look like I'm scouting out something. What do you need to scout something? Your eyes.
Absolutely.
Like and to not get too close. So yeah, like I think that those are really, really easy things that you can make out of a lot of different stuff, right? Or those
Yeah.
did you ever have those little pocket binoculars when you were a kid? They were
The
like in the
the
little case
pop-up
and
ones.
the pop-up ones. I
Yeah.
have
Dee
been
just made
watching.
one. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yes, I've been
Yeah.
watching Goodwill for some because I had a blue and black pair when I was a kid, and I'm crushed that I don't have them
I
anymore because they would
loved
be
them because
so
of the
good.
flip up, the flip
Yes.
up like glass or whatever. It probably
Yeah.
wasn't glass, but plastic.
Yeah.
But I love
Plastic.
that
Yeah.
it went down so compact. Like
Yeah.
it felt futuristic then,
Yes.
didn't it?
That's
Like, and it
something I
still
really
does.
want to work on. Yeah, it does, right?
Yeah.
We were definitely like our whole childhood was anything that felt futuristic was really cool, right?
Oh
Like it
yeah,
was
yeah. I held on to them like
glowing or
crazy.
anything with like lights. Yeah. Oh, totally. Um,
Oh, and it's funny that like we keep mentioning sort of cameras and things, and I wanted to bring up cameras because like
yeah.
cameras have a long history, a long storied history to be used as parts
Yeah.
of props. And I'm glad that you brought up the Arabesh decoder, the relic, because I fashioned that after not only like a cereal box like
Mhm.
decoder, but also as like a ring around like a camera lens.
Oh yeah.
So that was the marrying of those two things is
Okay.
what gave life to that, and that's why I wanted it to sort of have that look. And
Yeah.
like, why does it have like such a weird like open circle in the middle? And my thought
Yeah.
was always that it was part of a larger device,
Yeah.
probably even something like Knox or something, where you
Yeah.
look through, and something that a traveler would have that it would be easy to kind of reference while using,
Mhm.
um, or something, some kind of
Yeah.
navigational tool or something, and that would
Totally.
be on there, maybe with a button in the middle, or maybe some kind of switch in the middle. That's why it's just a ring,
Nice.
or a dial, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, cameras are, people use a lot of things. People use two things to sort of build their props around or
Yeah.
add to their props with, and it's like camera parts,
Mhm.
computer parts, like the innards of computers
Yeah,
are a
right?
big deal.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Totally. Yeah. I think that just another, and like I don't know if I usually would think of it as a prop, but now I'm kind of thinking it might be water bottles, like your
I think so.
HCU. Like, yeah, because if I've got my pack and if I'm out on a mission, I mean, God, if I'm going anywhere, I usually have a backpack with a water bottle in it, right? And I feel like that's another
Absolutely.
opportunity to like, yeah, and like finding like kind of more space. I have one, I should have brought it up. But it's just got like a different taper to it. And it's going to be for my Mando once I like finish building my Mando. It's a very
Nice.
like olive drab and it's very like I got it from Goodwill, so it's a little scuffed up. And like this made it in our
Oh
photo
yeah,
shoot,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
was
That's such
ridiculous.
a good
Like you're
one.
Oh my god. I mean, I like was a calf stand owner, right? Was like this character that I was
Mhm.
being, and but it's just so funny that like it was definitely like in one of the shots where I'm like, because it was first
Like
thing in the morning. It
pointing
was
at it, the
dumping
shot
rain.
is
I was,
unusable.
yeah, I
Like
know,
you're like
right?
smiling and pointing at it, like showing it on your phone. Like this is the link where you can get it. Just take the handle off. No,
But
that
it's
was a
like
really
things like
funny.
that, like definitely like I'm always trying to think of
That's a
like
prop.
what would a character just have with them in their daily life too, like
Absolutely,
to
absolutely.
survive, right? Yeah. So
What
I
do they
think that that's
use in
kind of
their day
cool.
to day? Yeah.
Yeah,
Does your
yeah,
character have a cane? Do they have a staff? Do they have like
yeah,
these are all kind of props. Do they have cutting utensils? I mean, we
yeah,
mentioned like torches and things like that, but like you
yeah.
can take through the uh through the community of the rogues of Mandalore, which I'm a part of. My Mando is a part of. I really want to be in with them. There is a specific, we call it the rogue's knife, right?
Oh yes.
Well, we
Yep,
call
I've
it
got one.
the oh, you do you have
Yeah,
a rogue's
yeah,
vibroblade?
Chase, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a paint
Ida gave one
stir.
to me. Yes, I
It's a
know. It's
paint
so good.
stir. And that's why I'm like, oh, you can find something that feels so in universe,
Yep.
just out in the world. No, that this company has no idea why their sales are skyrocketing.
Yeah. Well, the one I have
Just
is a
500
3D
Mandos buying
printed.
them
Yeah, I know, right?
on
The
a
one I have
weekly
was a
basis.
3D print where
Okay.
like Womp Rat Mando was like, I'm just gonna print one, but for sure
Yeah.
it's off that idea. Yeah.
Yeah. They're a buck at Home Depot.
Yeah.
Other other hardware stores are available,
Yeah.
but they're
Well,
they're a buck at Home Depot, and they're great. Like
yes.
someone, I forget who it was that came up with it, and they're like, "Look what I found! This is the Rogue's knife. This
Yeah.
is our
Yeah.
vibroblade." And
Right.
I immediately went out and got one. I did one up myself, but that's a
Yeah.
good example of like finding something off the rack that feels like very
Yes.
in the prop form that feels very in universe. Give
Totally.
it a couple
Totally.
coats of paint, give it some weathering, you're good to
Hmm.
go. I've seen people do
Yeah.
so many amazing things with it already.
I
Yeah.
love I love the hardware section at Goodwill for that reason. And I
Yeah.
don't always get something, but I definitely rummage,
Yeah.
just looking for random stuff, and I found some different, like different clamps that just look, like I don't know what it's for, but it just looks
Yeah.
different, and it just looks actually, I have my beloved, like, belt my beloved, like, leather hole punch. I found an old one. It's
Yeah.
all metal, and it's so weathered, and because I do want, like, for my Twilight, she's kinda into skullduggery, like, into, like, making stuff, right? So I
Yeah.
want a tool belt for her, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna look for some, like,
That
weird,
would be perfect.
broken/old tools," and I think that
Yeah.
that's a fun way to do it, is just go find
Yeah.
whatever's left over at Goodwill, right?
Then you can
Yeah.
add like a tiny little green, there you go.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
There you go. There's been so many things that
Totally.
have been used, which I think is the wonderful part of like the prop side of Star Wars is that
Yeah.
there's so many things you could find in the wild. Like
Mhm.
they when Andor came out in in Luthen's ship, there's a light cover to one of the lights in his ship, just like a
Yeah.
light to see, not a blinking light or anything like that. Like a room light, right?
Yeah.
And it's got a cover, and it's like kind of pill shaped, almost like the shape of this microphone. My microphone is pill shaped
Okay.
for
Yeah.
the oblong shaped, right?
Ye
With like grates. And then I love the race to then find this piece, right? And what it
Yes.
ended up being was a Sainsbury egg cutter. Like
Oh my gosh.
Sainsbury is like right over there. I'm pointing just outside my
Oh, no
window, listeners.
way! Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I haven't found one there, but it's
Okay.
it's it's you know it's of course like some of the production was
Oh
done
my gosh.
here,
In England,
and
yeah.
and they just took that. They took it apart a bit, and then the part that actually slices the egg um, is what they used as a light
Oh
grate.
my
So it just
gosh.
like has
Yeah,
little
yeah.
slits in it.
I can imagine that
Um,
exactly now you say that. I'm like, I think I've seen those.
yeah. It's a perfect little, it's a
Oh,
perfect little
yeah.
thing. We all use these little camping lights. I've
Yes.
got one just down
I've
here.
got one from Ian. I should have it. It's
I've
downstairs.
got one just down here of these that
Yes.
I'm finishing up. These little camping lights, which also
Mhm.
turned up in Andor. Andor
Yep,
was great
yep.
for props,
Edinburgh,
and I
so
will
good.
bring up something about it because I do have a gripe, and I think everyone has a gripe with
Ooh.
one of the props in Andor.
Okay,
But
okay.
they had these, which were used as lamps.
Yeah.
They weren't used for anything else. They were actually
Mhm.
used as lamps. They gave it a paint job. They sort of pull up. They're very cool. This doesn't have batteries, so it won't turn on. But these also kind of look like thermal detonators.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Because I think they're. That's why I got these little small ones because I want to include this for
Nice,
partisan build that
nice.
I'm doing. But I love the race to find the
Yeah,
thing.
right?
There was also a flask that was huge, and that
Yep.
I use it all
Mhm.
the time. Brad Mando is
That's a
giving one away right now.
that's a
Go
fun
to his
prop.
page. Yeah,
Woo!
he's giving one away right now, and he'll customize it for you. But I have the same one. It was also in Andor,
Nice.
and people went crazy looking for
Yeah.
it because they were like, "What is
Even the
that flask?"
even the cups that were used in Andor, people are really
Hmm.
like, "Here's the dishwasher." What was the thing that people had a gripe over? Because now I'm like, don't forget to talk about
Okay,
it 'cause I'm so curious.
well, it
What is it?
was the blasters that the Aldani crew had, which looked just
Yes.
straight up like an AK-47. Like,
Yes, that's right. In fact, I have a Pinterest page for Off the Rack Rebellion, if I ever remember to post things. So sorry for forgetting to post things on our Instagram. Um, and I have one of Val and Cinta because we both love them
mhm.
so
Oh,
much. Love those
so
ladies.
much.
But it's the one where they're just back behind the scenes, the actresses, and they just took a picture of themselves with the blasters. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh my God, I can't post that on social media because like all of our friends are getting stuff taken down for their prop weapons, right? I was
yeah,
like, and these ones are just like the real things. Like these ones are just like
yeah. They just
absolutely. Yeah.
didn't do much to them.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of
Okay.
chatter as to like, well, are they what they call in universe? Are they slug throwers? Right? Are they
Okay.
actual like
Okay.
bullet guns?
Yeah.
Right? Do
Gotcha.
we
Yeah.
see one fire? I don't think we see
Right. I
one
don't think
fire
we
so that
do.
we see a muzzle flash. I do. No, we
Right.
don't. I don't think we do see one. So there's a lot of like
Huh.
discussion on like, are those actually slug throwers? Then it
Okay.
makes sense. But if
Okay.
they're not, then they don't look, they
Blastery
don't look
enough. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
spacey enough. They don't look blastery
Yeah.
enough. They just didn't do enough to them. And the funny thing
Gotcha.
is that every blaster prop in universe comes from like the base is an actual gun. It always starts from an
Oh.
actual
Oh,
existing
certain model. Okay.
firearm. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and then a lot is done to them. An extra
Yes.
barrel, a weird
Yes.
clip, the stock is cut off or it's changed altogether. The grips are changed or something, but they all start from a lot of World War II weapons. Like
Yeah.
all the stormtrooper blasters are old, like World War II, like guns and whatnot. That they
Yeah.
did a whole bunch of stuff to them.
Yeah.
So the gripe is, whoa, you guys what happened? You ran out of
Yeah.
money?
Not enough of a filter. What are you doing? And I always interpreted that, like, as soon as I saw the show, I always interpreted that to be that they were supposed to be very antiquated, discarded, um,
Hmm.
things that those rebels had been able to get their hands on, that they couldn't get high tech.
Hmm.
That like people in
Hmm.
these outskirt areas might have whatever was left over from a great grandfather or whatever.
Hmm.
Still not far enough removed from our
Yeah,
real time era, but that's how I interpreted that.
the speculation was that it was so that they could I don't know, stay hidden and like,
Okay.
blaster fire you can see from a mile
Yeah,
away.
yeah, uh-huh.
But not a
Blazing
gunshot. So
light. Yes, yes, I get it.
exactly.
Okay.
So there's speculation as to that, but it's never really
Okay.
been explored. But people are
Okay.
like, is that a slug thrower? Slug
Okay.
throwers, in air quotes, do exist
Okay.
supposedly in
Okay.
universe. So
Gotcha. I didn't realize that.
could that have been some of them? Yeah, I think
Okay.
I think the Jawas, that weird sort of
Oh,
musketed
yep.
blaster,
Yep.
supposedly It's a slug
Okay. It's
thrower.
a slug
Yeah.
thrower. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, I'm learning things, guys. I didn't
I
realize
know.
that at all.
Supposedly, I don't know. I've heard it
Okay.
referenced as a slug thrower, and I
Okay.
was like, really?
Gotcha.
Those little Jawas? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen
Right.
before.
Okay. And
But
we
yeah,
talk about the Ewoks being murder bears, but there's these Jawas running around with slug throwers. No big deal.
exactly. They got like musketed shotguns, sawed-off shotguns. Like, what are they? The
Size
mob?
matters not in the Star Wars universe. Like everything can be deadly.
um,
Oh man. Okay. Yeah,
so
I can
yeah,
see that.
we got into a bunch of blasters,
No,
but
no,
props
it's
are
fine.
great.
But it's a really prime like genre of prop in Star
Hmm.
Wars, right? It's
Yeah,
definitely something I shy away from
yeah,
in just wearing them. I mean, I had that one that I finally wore last year for
right.
Comic-Con with my Twilight look. And I definitely have I told you this story? Like I was
No.
very nervous because I was like,
Okay.
to me, being able to walk around with a replica gun, there's nothing more white privilege than that. Like
Oh yeah,
and
I
and
hear
I
you.
was very intimidated. Living in Seattle, we're very, very concerned with things like that, I would say. And so I was really
No,
concerned about I mean, I was like riding
thank you for
public
that.
transportation. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, if like some kid of color can be, killed for having a cell phone, it's definitely white
Yeah.
privilege that I could walk to Comic-Con with a replica
Hmm.
of something that in a movie will kill somebody. So I was nervous about that. And I walk in and I've got this little mini that one of our Burgundy Squadron guys made, and it was too small for his hand, and I'm tiny, so great,
All
it worked
right.
for me. And so it's super thin, but it's beautifully painted. And so I walk into Comic Con, I'm all nervous about it. I carried it in a tote, which is even kind of nervous, but I didn't have it on my body
Hmm.
on our train, but I was like really nervous. And I walk into Comic Con, and everyone had been like, "Oh yeah, you show it at." The security and then they'll tag it and all that
Yeah.
stuff and whatever. So I go in and there's this guy at the table in front of me who has, I kid you not, a bastard sword. And it's metal and it's sharp. And the security guys
Oh
are going,
geez.
no, dude,
Yeah, you
no.
can't get in there with that. Yeah.
And they're like, we will check it for you and you may pick it up on the way out as we escort you out the
Hmm.
door. And so then I'm
Hmm.
like standing there with my little tote bag and it's my turn next. I go up to the table. I'm like, I have a blaster for you to check.
And they're
And they're
like,
like, a
get out of
what?
here.
I'm like, a Star Wars gun. And I like put it out and they look at me and they're like, you're good.
Yeah,
I
you're
was
fine.
just like, oh
You're
my
good.
God. But I
Get
was
in
like
there.
really nervous about that. But I think it is,
Yeah.
it is such a thing that can really look like, oh, blaster, Star Wars,
Well, it
space.
just,
Like
if you're
it
wearing it in a
can
holster, no one
elevate it.
knows what it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They just see a handle. It
Oh,
looks like a
that
gun.
was totally one the reason I was like, "Oh my god, it's in a holster." Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
But, yeah, like you're a stormtrooper and you've got your big old nerfy looking thing, right? Like
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah,
I
blasters are new for me because I'm very much like tiptoeing
right.
into that like my character's
I
gonna
just
kill
did a
somebody.
shoot. I just did a shoot with D, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
With Holoscan database. Oh my god, I can't
Yes.
wait. Can't wait to see
Yes.
them. And I was at a I was at a children's park. I was at a
Oh
children's
yeah.
playground
Mhm.
with
Yep.
a blaster on my hip. But I was in Texas, so no one no one cared.
Nobody
Like
batted an eye. Oh
nobody
my god.
cared. No
Wow.
one cared.
So
Like there
yeah,
were
so
probably
very
more
different.
actual guns there than
Very
people cosplaying or
Actually, I
children.
talked about this because at Emerald City Comic Con last year, Raimi, high producer,
Yeah.
was there with me with Luke Left Coast Avenger, and we were taking some shots, and they were sharing stories of how they have had SWAT teams and stuff called on them, and it was only like someone just like fed into that, where I'm like, man, I just always want to be very careful with those as a prop. So if you are using
Yeah.
blasters as a prop, just be careful, be mindful. We have had
Be
some
very
friends who have
careful.
had SWAT teams called on them, and actually, while we were taking photos across the street from Emerald City Comic Con that says "Do not enter" in this parking lot where we were, like some squad cars come racing up the hill, and I'm like, "Oh, here we go!" And they went right past us. And I'm like, "Okay, all right, we're good, we're good."
Okay.
But yeah, I think the blaster is something that can definitely. It's like it's a telltale sign, but it's also I get nervous about it. So
Yeah, yeah, I do
anyway,
too.
yeah,
I am a Latino male. Like it
yeah,
is,
like right,
it
yeah,
is. But I always feel like oh, I'm never walking around like here with it. And when I did use it for the
yeah,
shoot, I did put it on, you know, the very last minute. Like I put it on and
Yeah.
then we started shooting.
Yep.
That's why I
Yeah, and
always
there's
have
clearly a
like
photographer, right? Yeah.
that's why I love a
Like,
wide drop. I've talked about this before because I can
yeah.
just like slip it onto my belt and I'm ready to go.
Mhm.
Like I
Yeah,
don't have to
totally.
like have a belt rig. Um,
Yeah.
that I then can't take off because then I have to take off the whole belt.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
like a wide
Definitely.
drop because I could take it off just in case. If
Nice.
we were to get in trouble or anything like that, and they're like,
Yep.
yeah, well, you can't have that. I can literally
Mhm.
slip it off and the shoot continues
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
being said, I
Yeah.
had it out.
Yeah.
I was brandishing it. I was being so
So we should all
cool.
meet up in Texas for a photo shoot is what you're
I was being
saying.
so cool, and nobody cared.
Nobody
So that
cares.
was great. I do love a blaster. I love a blaster. I'm
They
not a
are,
fan
and
of
they
like.
are great.
I'm not a fan of guns. Like, but
Yeah.
I understand why they exist,
Yeah.
but I do love a blaster.
Yeah, we do love a blaster. And I think that it's because like it's that space Wild West, right? Like it takes it,
hmm
it's like from when you're a
hmm
kid and you play cowboy. Yeah, for sure. Like I get that
Yeah,
absolutely.
gives you a
So,
little, gives you a little strut. It gives you a little,
yeah, oh for sure. Yeah, like you're a rebel.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
exactly.
Or
Ready
an
for
empire,
anything.
depending, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, but that's my personal story of like walking up to Emerald City Comic Con security and they're like, "Are you serious right now, kid?" Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
they're like,
fine.
get in there. Who cares? What is that?
Who are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is always trying to find those things that tell the story. And that was like this character, she's a hired gun. I'm like, well, I guess I gotta have
Right.
a blaster.
You
So
kind of have to.
yeah,
Yeah.
gotta have to. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. The
I
ironic
do. I
thing is
do.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry. The
Oh, I was
ironic
just gonna
thing.
say the ironic thing is that I like grew up on a farm with skeet shooting and used to teach at an outdoor art camp where back in the day we taught children how to shoot them. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
I like can
Okay.
handle them. I have
Gun
handled
safety is
them, but I'm very
important.
much like I'm like okay, and that I think that the safety is very much in the back of my mind, being like,
Yeah.
gotta
Although
show I'm being very safe.
I do love going to the prop check table and just like like just taking
Taking
everything
everything
off like
off. You ever seen the old
sidearm. It'll
the
hold
old
out
have we
like
talked
the
about this old Steven Spielberg movie, Oscar?
no
He can't
no.
it's hilarious. He's an old 1920s gangster. It's one of my favorite I love this movie. And there's
Okay.
this line where he's telling some gangster to drop all of his weapons, and he's just, like, dropping them on the table. Because it's
Well,
like
there's
disarming Germany. Yeah,
well,
it's like
I wonder if that's like, a reference because in season one of Mandalorian, where he's taking like a transport
yeah,
ship, and they
yeah!
ask him to take off all his stuff, and it's
Where he's,
just
like, dropping, yes.
piles of things. And there's even like a sort of joke, like where they're looking at him like, all right, all of
Yeah,
them. You gotta
right,
give it. And he's
right,
like, all
yeah.
right. He
He's like,
takes off like
"Alright."
his like hold down and like an extra vibro blade that he had. Like
I love that.
those
I do
Mandos,
love
they
that
really
scene.
do.
Those
They
Mandos, I
really
mean,
do.
they're armed to the teeth, right? Yeah,
I
and
know.
I think deciding if your character needs to be armed to the teeth because your merchant doesn't, right?
Right.
Like, and my
Doesn't
calf
make sense to me.
stand, even though she was a cover, she was going into Disney. So if you're going into Disney, be mindful of your props. You can't have anything
Yeah.
that looks like any of
Yeah.
that. So you got to get creative with other things. Oh, one
hmm
thing that I have for Disney, but also for whenever that I love is a little knocking my table, a little personal fan, but it's
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
orange and black and it
I've seen
has
it.
this
It's
really
great.
unusual shape. Yeah. And I've scuffed it up a little. I need to scuff it up some more and like really add a little paint to it. But that's a really handy personal prop because if
hmm
you're on Batu and it's hot, you've got a fan. And also it's a cell phone charger because you can
Yeah.
just like
Oh,
it's a power
perfect.
bank. So
Or
you can
even
just plug into it.
Ian's amazing like neck
Yes.
fans. That's
Yes,
like
I know.
straight out of the movies. So we've never seen anything
Yeah.
like it, but it looks straight out of the movies.
But
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
right, it
It
should be right
fits.
out of the movies. It
Yeah.
makes sense. It's like a
Yeah.
personal cooling device. Yes.
Yeah.
Things like that. So I am always trying to like think of like, oh well, like I need this on me. How do I make it look Star Wars? Because you could have those personal fans that clearly look like a fan, or you could
Right.
have this little square thing that's like weird looking, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
And that can
Um,
fit it. And that's one of the points that I put in the notes here is that like I wrote here it's a good open landscape for play. Like
yeah.
there are so many props in the movies and the shows, and they're constantly adding to them,
Mhm.
that there are assuredly things that you can
Yeah.
find out there in the world that would fit exactly. And guess what? They might even be used in the next thing, and you don't even
Yeah.
know. There's some
Yeah.
like prop master right now is I don't know, using this for something. I'm just pulling
Yeah.
my lamp into frame, you know. And I got this
Totally.
lamp specifically because it had like a weird Star Warsy look, like.
Nice.
So there's a lot of area and
Right?
room for play in the world of
Yes.
props. Yeah,
Absolutely. Can I tell my favorite prop that I've seen used in the movies? Like I
yeah.
haven't it's the and I don't even know what they're called, but it's that like scoop, that plastic scoop net thing that you play with a ball, right? You
Oh
each have one
yeah,
of those scoops
yeah.
and it's hanging on the
Episode
wall
one.
in Anakin's in episode 1.
Yep.
Like I have taken so many screenshots of Anakin and Shmi's home because of all
Yeah,
the weird stuff that they have hanging there. And that's one of my favorites because like I came from a background in childcare. Like I had a
yeah,
million of those in my program, right? Because
yeah,
one's always getting lost. You got to buy another set. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think there's some in my garage right now. I love that
yeah.
that's such a common thing when they hung it
And then
up.
it's
That was
used. Yeah,
best.
they really. It's a bit of
Yeah.
magic there. Like, of course, we talk a lot about like clothes and things on this
Mm.
podcast, and it's really fun to like find like the exact pair of pants or like
Yeah.
the exact like jacket used in this scene. But I think the world of like props, which is also part of a big part of costuming, like there's so
Mhm.
much play in it, and there's so many
Yeah.
little like nods to things and blinking
Yeah.
you'll miss some things, and it's really fun to
Yes.
go out and hunt for them. There's a whole legion of people that's all they do is like
I
they'll
love
watch a
that.
show and they'll hunt for where it was found, what was
Yeah.
the seed piece to that prop. Yeah,
Yeah. It's fascinating. And when you find stuff, let us know because I'm curious.
yeah. No
I'm always
worries.
curious to see things in their not prop state. Like what was the base?
Yeah,
What did it originally look like? Or just, wow, that was really creative. Well done.
yeah, yeah.
So
How much did they do it, or how little did they do it?
yeah,
Sometimes
right?
that's the fun part.
They didn't do much to that basketball game. I think they
Absolutely
just
not. They
they
painted
hung
it.
it, they painted it, and I think that there was some sort of metal thing hanging off of it, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly, and that was it. It was
that's it.
like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Might have been a
So
droid part at that point, because that was his
yeah.
little workshop. Like,
Yeah,
who
or
knows
maybe
what
some
it
sort of
was.
tool for, like,
Yeah,
taking something out of a vat of oil or something, right?
yeah,
Like
yes, yeah.
yeah, like
Or That's absolutely right. Like almost like a
right?
those
Like a
baskets.
deep fryer? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
When you're, like, taking fries out of that oil.
Exactly. I was just thinking. Yeah, you might be cleaning a bunch of parts, and you need that
Yeah,
little basket thing with a handle to put it in the oil.
totally.
Anyway, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But I think that helps hone in on what your props are, being like, "Well, what
yeah,
does my character need to do? What should they have with
yeah,
them?" Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, Droid Smith, start hanging those off of your back.
yeah.
Oh. Well, gosh.
Okay, that's it for props.
Yeah,
I think we've covered it.
absolutely. Yeah, but let us
But
know,
there's
like,
so
what are
much.
your favorite props? Like, if you've incorporated something into your bound, into your cosplay, like, what is your favorite? I'm curious.
Very, very, very curious.
Yeah,
So why don't you and you can send that, where you can send that? You can send that to Off the Rack Rebellion with
you
periods in
could.
between over on Instagram. Kate, where can they find you?
You
Did you
can
like that?
find me over at One
Smooth.
Scavenger's Wardrobe on Instagram, always.
Yeah. And you
And
can find
Billy?
me over at Billy Maddox on Instagram. Many, many thanks to our producer Raimi and the great
Mm.
people over at the Dad Batch
Yay.
podcast. Go give them a listen. And remember that a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away can be right here and right now.